Good evening, my friends. I'm glad you felt drawn to join me tonight. I'm Nancy Pfaff. If you'd like to know more of my background, you can check that out on the introduction to this video series. Briefly, I'm a spiritual director who's been on a spiritual journey for 50 years, doing spiritual direction for over 20. If you have any questions or would like some information on spiritual direction, write me at sacredquestreno@gmail.com. I think you'll enjoy our reading tonight. It's with Nicholas Black Elk of the Oglala Lakota people of South Dakota. He was a holy man, wise and weathered by life. Lectio Divina is a reflective reading or listening to inspired poetry and prose. You open your heart to the words, and the presence within you brings up wisdom. What touches you, what draws you, what interests you, whatever has an effect on you, that's a gift. You know you're being touched by the divine. It brings with it a hint of something you need to know now. Paying attention to our inner world, spiritual attentiveness, is a dynamic process that can give you a direct experience of God. Spirit-inspired words quicken your spirit to hear comfort, challenge, and guidance. And it happens right now. Jerome Waddle, the creator and producer of My Dragon Theater Productions, is watching the chat, so do say hello. We'd like to know you're there. You may want to subscribe. Just click the bell, and please leave a comment. I'd love you to share your video with others, with your friends. You may have noticed already that I use different words for the divine. That's because we're a non-sectarian interfaith audience. All are welcome. We're all on our own unique journey, and we all have the common source. That source is a fullness and an emptiness, a love and a deep stillness, a oneness, a wholeness I call agape. I wish I could see how you set up your room tonight. It's important to have a safe, quiet place. I like to make mine sacred with a special item. I have a holy bell that I ring before I enter meditation. Of course, just you being in the room make it sacred. A simple ritual that you do each time you settle in for communion with Spirit teaches your body self that it's time to relax, to let go, and to yield to a deep center within. An intention engages presence as you seek to open to the divine. You could say, I open to the divine presence within, or I consent to your presence and action in my life, or something else. An intention engages presence as you seek to open to the divine. You could say, I open to the divine presence within. Our reading tonight is a quote by Nicholas Black Elk of the Lakota Sioux people. He was a holy man, a spiritual leader. Non-natives might call him a medicine man or a shaman, but these were not native designations. The name Lakota means feeling affection, friendly, united, allied. He was also a sacred clown. As a sacred clown, he was a social critic of the highest order. For example, if a clown thought that what someone was getting ready to do was foolish, the clown would show up and imitate every one of their moves. only the clown would imitate in such a way that every little wart would show, every hole in their idea would suddenly look huge. He was also just a natural humorist. He tells this story. One day, Black Elk wanted to go to the store, so he got on his horse called Baloney, and they went in to town. He got off Baloney, walked into the store, looked around, saw what he needed, paid for it, and came out. No Baloney. Baloney had gone home without him. Well, the next time he went to the store, he came out and left Baloney there, went home by himself. Black Elk was born in December 1863 in Wyoming Territory, and later was moved to the Pine Ridge Reservation, where the Oglala Lakota live. It is its own county and is located in the southern end of the Badlands. It makes up over 2.1 million acres, 84,000 of which can be put to agricultural use. The county is the poorest county in the whole United States. The death age is very young compared to the average American. At the reservation, the average age expectancy is 66. In the United States as a whole, it's 78. May I encourage you to be a friend to the Pine Ridge Reservation and donate. We'll provide a link. The reservation is part of a mixed grass prairie, a transition zone between the short grasses and the tall grass prairies. They are part of the Great Plains. The hills and ridges are pine covered. There are grassy plains and a desert area. And you're looking at that desert area now in the slide next to me. I discovered Black Elk in the book Black Elk Speaks. It's written by a journalist, not an anthropologist, so don't expect a truly scientific account. I was impressed by Black Elk's spirituality, which was able to help his people when many were slaughtered by government troops, and he was also able to move past the horror to find a life of service and deep meaning. He adapted to what is when the alternative was alienation. Choosing his attitude reminds me of Viktor Frankl, who wrote Man's Search for Meaning. He tells how when he was in a concentration camp and had no freedom, he found freedom within, that he could choose his own attitude. There's a well-done 1-hour documentary about Black Elk called Walking the Good Red Road. We'll put a link in the description. In that video, we learn that he had a deep relationship with the divine, and he said, quote, "We're all children under the flowering tree," end quote. At one point, he had a vision of a man in radiant light who said, "All nature belongs to me." This man showed him his hands, and they had wounds like Jesus. He practiced his Lakota way, and at the same time was a follower of Jesus. He was a pioneer, having two belief systems come together. At the end of his life, he said, "The Lakota way and the Jesus way are the same way." He describes one of his sacred visions, quote, "I saw more than I can tell, and understood more than I saw, for I was seeing in a spiritual manner the shapes of all things in the spirit, and the shape of all shapes as they must live together, like one being." We need his words in our times, quote, There is only one important law: to love one another and to be thankful for one another. We are all related. As we move into Lectio Divina, it's time to state your intention of opening to presence and do your ritual if you haven't already. I'm going to place my hand on my heart, inviting it to open. After each of the 3 readings, there will be a minute of silence, which will close with a gong. Following the 3rd reading by Jerome Waddell and a minute of silence, I'll say, continue to be present to your experience. You'll have more time to savor what came up for you. During the silence, you can ponder the words you've heard, relate the reading to issues in your life, pray, or be with feelings and images that arose, or simply rest in presence. Let's begin with some long, slow, deep breaths, and I'll do them with you. We're entering that time like no other time, a place like no other place. You may close or soften your eyes. Imagine yourself facing a circle of stones. You are completely safe in this place. Look at the stones. Are they rough or smooth? In the stillness, you become aware of your many concerns. The burden is like a heavy pack on your back. The circle of stones seems to beckon you. You have a deep inner knowing that you can place your burden there. You place your pack in the circle of stones. A power greater than yourself is tending your pack. Now feel a sense of release and open your heart to the readings. The first reading. The sacred hoop made one circle, wide as daylight and as starlight. In the center grew one mighty flowering tree, sheltering all the children of one mother and one father. And I saw that it was holy. 1 minute of silence. Our second reading. The sacred hoop made one circle, wide as daylight and as starlight. In the center grew one mighty flowering tree. Sheltering all the children of one mother and one father. And I saw that it was holy. One minute of silence. The third reading.
The sacred hoop made one circle, wide as daylight and as starlight. In the center grew one flowering tree, sheltering all of the children of one mother and one father. And I saw that it was holy.
One minute of silence. continue to be present to your experience. Now, as you come back to this present moment, rub your chest, pat your arms, take a deep breath and smile. You may want to jot a note about what moved you before it evaporates. It is a gift from presence. You made conscious contact. I hope you will do something to express it in time and space, like a journal entry, or taking a stone to put it where you can see it. Any creative act will contribute to expanding your awareness. Let me tell you a story about my recent Lectio Divina experience. The reading and image were from my red book, in which I keep dreams and the most important image for each dream. I learned this from Carl Jung, the famous Swiss psychoanalyst. I share this as an example of how our own words and images can prompt inner movements, inspirations, and aha moments. That there are times when our outer world and inner world coincide in such a way that we know Source is at work. So what brought me to my red book? My friend Maureen and I were enjoying my grandfather's mineral collection. He was a geologist. And when we came to this stone, I gasped. It reminded me of a dream I had which featured an amethyst brooch. And by the way, this is cuprite, a copper oxide ore. Since my red book had this dream, I picked it up to see the image of the brooch. And here's the stone. In order to gaze at this dream image for a few days, to see what would come up from the unconscious, I left the book open on a shelf. This allows the unconscious to bring up wisdom from the deep center. My intention was to understand why that stone seemed to be so important. Later that day, I was massaging a tight muscle, hoping to release it. And if a memory came up, I would be able to integrate it. As I worked the muscle, a memory did emerge. I'm in 6th grade, and I've been caught helping another kid on a test. I cringe when I hear my punishment from student government. I'm to play football with the boys at recess. I'm wearing a dress. Scared to death, I report to the football field. They're all in position, and the captain of the group gives me the football and says, "Run." I get maybe 3 feet before I feel the hard, cold ground and the pain and humiliation of as many boys as possible piling on top. As this memory emerged, I knew this child I was still had that hurt in me, and I could help heal her through symbols and symbolic acts, like conscious play acting. This reaches that hurt way down in the unconscious. Gazing at the image of the purple brooch, the wisdom came up to me. I thought of the Purple Heart Award. It is awarded men and women wounded or killed in military service. When that thought arose, I knew just what to do. Looking at my doll, a connection to my inner child, I said, "You're a purple-hearted child." It was an aha moment. I knew presence was manifesting. Of course, it doesn't compare to the heroic sacrifice of our troops. I placed the purple stone on her and I said officially, "I see your wounds, and I award you this stone as one who came through the battle with strength and courage." A healing shift happened inside. I have the doll now with the stone. This symbol acknowledges both my old hurt and also my strength and courage. Holding the two together cancels that old wound. I'm no longer the victim of that incident. Instead, I'm a Purple Heart recipient. 2 days later, I was listening to a video by Shakti Katerina Maggie, in which she said there was a way to help the world by feeling its pain in God for transformation. I had an inner knowing that holding my own pain in love and compassion was a training ground for holding our world's pain in that emptiness and fullness that is the creative activity and reality that transforms all. Now, before we go, I invite you to write me at sacredquestreno.com. Post a comment, share, and click like. To enjoy Jerome Waddle's readings, just type Jerome Waddle in the YouTube search bar. Thank you for joining me. May the love of God that passes all understanding keep you in peace.